Okay, so the Geneva Gear would probably be in that P2-26. It's kind of listed after the E-clip in P2-25, but I'll go ahead and we'll do a quick version of this. So since we have the boss and the through hole on the side view, we kind of know what the geometry is. Looking at this, we have pattern of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the one thing I noticed is that we kind of have the base circle of 2 inches, but then the outside pattern we don't really have a center location or dimension for the arcs. So that one we're just going to have to come up with a number and see what we get. All right. If we do this as contours and regions, I can complete all of the geometry, and then we'll build out from there. So this is an inch part, and we'll focus on creating our first geometry. And let's see, front plane, sketch. So if I wanted to use the slot, the straight slot, we could go ahead and include that geometry. I don't know that I want to go into the pattern that much, so I think, well, we have that would be another missing dimension then. Since we're 2 inches on the base, looks like we don't have the outside diameter. So this is a device for intermittent motion, that as the pen travels around this, it acts like a cam, and it pauses, and then it drives, and then it pauses. So let's get our circle in here. Alright, so I'm going to go with 6 inches, see what that looks like. We'll get the sketch started for the slot. And that was a little bigger than what I want, so I'll just wait for the relations and dimensions. So it looked like it tried to snap to a tangency and then jumped back, so I'm not sure what happened there. So a vertical, widthwise or 1/4 of an inch, and then the base circle was 2 inches, so the radius would be 1 inch. Alright, so kind of looking at that, 6 inches is probably a little on the large side. So we'll see what we can make as far as an adjustment. So we're not going to have a full intersection here, and I'm going to try the center and 2 points angle. I don't know if I can pick up a quadrant on the circle, so that's not gonna help me that much. So let's put either a center line or a point out here. Alright, so what I really needed was the point, but the center line gives me a decent reference, and I can kind of tell what's going on a little bit better. Alright, so the other option would be to go ahead, and since I was drawing center lines, to draw a center line to the center of the circle and then place an angle. But one of the items that comes in handy is if I pick the vertex, the intersection of the angle, and then the point and the point, that will give me an angle that I don't need lines, I just need 3 points. So for 8, that should be at 45 degrees. Nope, we're going to be at 22.5 degrees because we're going to end up with more arcs. Okay, that wasn't quite what I had in mind. So the 90 minus 25, let's put the equation in there. Alright, so that's looking better. And then for the distance, we'll go between the two circles, and this is one of the reasons why we would use the center lines a little bit more. So for this one, 375, and let's see what we're close to. 2 inches is going to be a little bit small. 2.5 is, it doesn't look too bad. Alright, so since we're missing some dimensions, then we're going to just kind of build this out and see what we get. Alright, so for my pattern, I'm going to right click and select chain. I only need that geometry. Holding down the control button, selecting the circle, and then we're going to go into the circular sketch pattern. We're going to have a total of 8 of these. And that should give me the geometry. We'll go ahead and accept. Alright, so let's try a coincident on one of the pieces of the geometry and a coincident on another, and that will usually get it to go fully defined. Alright, so again with the pattern, I know that there's a sketch point. I could have just drug that sketch point off and back. In fact, let's do that. I'm going to Control Z, and I think that one is still coincident, so Control Z one more time. Alright, so if I search for that center point, now we got rid of the coincidence, so I just need to find. Alright, so probably should have done that. Well, okay, so grabbing it and moving it back gets kind of the same thing, but if this was a whole wizard item, I can't emphasize this enough that we would end up with 9 in our pattern because of that point. So let's go ahead and extrude this out, and then I'll build the other hub feature. Alright, so 1/4 inch on the thickness. And then we'll open up the sketch, and 0.25 and 0.5. I guess I need to place that, make sure the geometry gets put in. Okay, and then that's going to go to 560. Alright, so if I'd drawn it on the back, I could push it all the way through at 560. Probably the quickest one here is 0.56 minus. We can just have it do that math and come up with 310. Alright, so the other option then is if I thought maybe this thickness was going to change, or I would have to make some modifications, I can go to offset from surface. Alright, so when I pick the surface, we're going to reverse the direction. 310 is not nearly enough. We're going to 560 and we'll hit tab, and it is merging the result. Now when I go to measure, we had a value of 310. Select and Control Select, then my normal distance becomes 0.31. Alright, last piece of geometry will be the through hole at 1/4 inch. I'll go ahead and extrude cut that, and it can be a through hole. Okay, so the test of our geometry is that we come up with the 6 inches. Well, if it'll catch up, there we go. If the 6 inches turns out to be too much, and I double click, and my video card's catching up, and we change this to 5 inches, then the 3.75 is probably going to move, let's see, 1/2 inch difference. Let's go to 3.25, and actually this would be a good spot to use that min-max thing and keep it tied together. Alright, so when I rebuild, those are going to update, and, well, it didn't quite. Alright, so I'm just going to edit it this time. So the diameter size also needs to adjust from the 2.5. Alright, so that doesn't look too bad, but probably not enough. Let's go to 2.25. Alright, so making the edits and adjustments, that's a little bit closer, but without the values or without the mating pieces to see how this is going to turn and work, we still have questions for our design. Alright, well, so we'll save this and call it done.